Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm genuinely excited for what we're getting into today. We've got a fascinating topic lined up, looking at common foods, stuff you probably have sitting in your kitchen right now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and maybe this will make you look twice at your pantry. What if some of those everyday foods, the ones that seem totally harmless, could actually be risky? Like seriously risky, maybe even deadly, if they're not prepared exactly right. So our mission today is to dig into that, the hidden science, the must-know prep tips, and some pretty wild stories behind these common ingredients. We want you to be really well-equipped.
It's a really captivating area, isn't it? Nature's got these amazing defense mechanisms built into plants, even some animals. And understanding the compounds involved, how they affect us, and how we figured out how to handle them safely.
Well, it's a great shortcut to being genuinely informed about what we eat.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with something super common. Apples. We all know the saying, an apple a day, right?
Right. Keeps the doctor away.
But what about the tiny seeds? The ones we usually ignore or spit out? Are they hiding something? Well, yeah, they actually are. You know that bitter taste if you accidentally bite into one?
Uh-huh. Yeah, not pleasant.
That's your first clue. They contain a compound called amygdalin, and when you chew those seeds, enzymes in your gut get to work on it and break it down into hydrogen cyanide.
Cyanide. Okay, hold on. That sounds pretty serious.
It is serious. I mean, cyanide is a potent poison. What it does, essentially, is it stops your body's cells from being able to use oxygen. So it shuts down vital processes, leads to something called hypoxemia, cellular suffocation, basically. And yeah, ultimately, it can be fatal.
Wow. Okay, but before everyone panics and starts meticulously de-seeding every apple, let's get some perspective here, right? Our bodies can handle some level of that.
Absolutely. Your body is actually quite good at detoxifying small amounts of cyanide. We encounter traces of it here and there. With apple seeds, you'd need to crush and eat a lot of them, like hundreds, maybe even thousands all at once.
Okay, so accidentally swallowing a few seeds from one apple isn't going to...
No, definitely not. It's not going to send you to the emergency room. It's really a classic case of, the dose makes the poison. Casual consumption is fine.
All right, that's reassuring. Okay, now for something that definitely puts the danger in dinner party. Something you see in movies. Fugu. Pufferfish.
Ah, fugu. Yes, the ultimate culinary gamble, you could say. And its reputation is absolutely deserved. The danger isn't the fish meat itself, usually, but specific parts, the ovaries, the intestines, and particularly the liver.
And those contain?
They contain an incredibly powerful neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin. Just to give you an idea, it's estimated to be up to 1,200 times more deadly than the cyanide we just talked about.
1,200 times, wow.
Yeah, even a tiny amount like the size of a pinhead can be lethal. And its effect is, well, chilling. If it's prepared improperly, the toxin paralyzes your nervous system. It starts with tingling around the mouth, and your limbs become paralyzed. And then, crucially, your respiratory muscles shut down.
So you can't breathe,
Yeah.
even though you're conscious.
Exactly. You remain fully conscious, but completely unable to move or breathe. It's like drowning, but without any water. It's why fugu chefs in Japan have to go through years, sometimes 7 to 10 years, of incredibly strict training to get licensed.
Like surgical precision.
Precisely. They learn to remove those toxic organs meticulously. But even with all that training and regulation, tragically, a few people still die each year from improperly prepared fugu. Often it's from dishes like fuguchiri, the soup, or sashimi fugu, the raw meat. The stakes are just incredibly high.
Okay, from the famously lethal to the perhaps surprisingly problematic. Let's talk about rhubarb. You know those tangy red stalks we love in pies and crumbles?
Right. The stalks are delicious and perfectly safe. But the leaves, that's where the danger lies.
The leaves. Okay, what's in them?
Rhubarb leaves contain very high levels of oxalic acid. Now, oxalic acid itself isn't unique to rhubarb. Rhubarb leaves lots of healthy greens like spinach and broccoli have it too, but in much, much lower, totally safe amounts.
Okay, so it's the concentration again.
Exactly. It's the high levels in the leaves. Oxalic acid is corrosive, it's acidic, it can actually damage tissues. If you eat enough of the leaves, it can cause serious gastrointestinal issues, kidney failure, and in really extreme cases, yes, it can be fatal. Again, the dose makes the poison.
And isn't there a story about this, like historically?
Yes, a really sobering one from World War I in Britain. Food was scarce, vegetable stocks were low, and somehow, rhubarb leaves were mistakenly recommended as a food source in official publications.
Oh, no.
Yeah, big mistake. It led to quite a few poisonings and, sadly, some deaths. A really stark reminder to know exactly which part of the plant is edible.
Definitely. Okay, let's move on to elderberries. They seem pretty popular these days, right?
Yep.
Syrups, drinks, desserts, often for immune support.
They are, and the ripe, cooked berries are great full of antioxidants. But, like rhubarb, it's crucial to know which parts are safe. The danger lies in the rest of the plant, meaning the twigs, the leaves, the roots, and also the seeds inside the berries, especially if they aren't fully ripe or properly strained out after cooking. These parts contain bitter alkaloids that can produce hydrocyanic acid in your body.
Okay, so similar to the apple seeds again.
Sort of, yes.
Yeah.
If you consume those parts, particularly raw or improperly processed, you can get hit pretty quickly with symptoms like severe nausea, really bad vomiting, and diarrhea.
And there was that incident, I think the CDC reported on it.
Yes, exactly. Back in 1983 in California, a group attending a religious ceremony drank this juice made with elderberries. But it also included leaves and branches and likely unripe berries.
Yeah.
And within about 15 minutes, they started vomiting violently. 8 people ended up being airlifted to the hospital. Thankfully, everyone survived, but it just goes to show how careful you need to be with preparation and knowing which parts are safe.
Wow, 15 minutes is fast.
Okay.
Okay, next up, something probably in almost everyone's pantry. Red kidney beans. Now, I know undercooked beans can cause digestive upset, let's say, but red kidney beans are special.
They really are. They take it to another level. The issue is a specific type of lectin, a protein called phytohemagglutinin, or PHA for short. It's basically the bean's defense mechanism.
Okay, so what does PHA do if you eat it?
If you eat raw or, crucially, insufficiently cooked kidney beans, PHA binds to the lining of your digestive tract and messes things up badly. We're talking nausea, really intense vomiting, diarrhea, bad abdominal pain, and it can come on within just a few hours.
That sounds awful. But there's good news, right? Cooking fixes it.
Absolutely. The good news is that proper cooking completely destroys the PHA. That's why cooked beans are such a healthy, important food source. Great protein, fiber. But the cooking has to be right.
And this is where it gets tricky, isn't it? The FDA warning.
Yes, this is super important. Cooking dried red kidney beans for less than 10 minutes at a temperature below boiling doesn't just fail to destroy the toxin, it actually makes it more toxic.
More toxic.
Apparently, the low heat isn't enough to break down the PHA, but it might break down other compounds that slightly inhibit it, effectively concentrating its toxic effect. The study showed it could become up to 5 times more toxic than eating them raw.
Okay, that's counterintuitive and scary. So what's the rule then? How do you cook them safely?
The key is soak, drain, and boil vigorously. Soak dried beans for at least 5 hours. Discard the soaking water and then boil them hard, like a rolling boil, for at least 30 minutes. No slow cookers for dried kidney beans unless you boil them first. Seriously, no shortcuts here.
Got it. Soak, drain, boil hard for 30 minutes. Okay. Now, castor oil, most people might know it as, that old-fashioned laxative. But the seeds, that's where the real story is, right? Something a bit more sinister.
Indeed. The seeds themselves are the source of ricin. That's the incredibly potent poison you hear about, maybe famously from shows like Breaking Bad.
Ricin, right. How does that work?
Ricin is what's called a cytotoxin. It gets inside your cells and basically stops them from making the proteins they need to live. It tells your own cells to self-destruct, essentially. Tiny amounts can be lethal.
Okay, but the oil is safe. How does that work?
Thankfully, yes. The process used to extract the oil from the seeds involves heat, and that heat effectively destroys the ricin toxin. So the castor oil you buy is safe for its intended uses. The danger is purely in the unprocessed seeds themselves. Never eat those.
Right. Good distinction. Okay, let's switch gears to something sweet and maybe a bit exotic for some. Lychee. Delicious fruit, but there's a really tragic story linked to them, especially involving children.
Yes, this is a really important story, quite heartbreaking actually. It involves eating raw, unripe lychees, particularly on an empty stomach. These unripe fruits contain high levels of a natural compound called hypoglycin.
Hypoglycin, what does that do?
It severely interferes with your body's ability to produce glucose, causing a rapid and dangerous drop in blood sugar hypoglycemia. For years, over 20 years in fact, doctors in parts of northern India, especially Bihar, saw this baffling illness every spring.
What kind of illness?
Hundreds of children, often underfed, who'd been eating fallen, unripe lychees, would suddenly develop seizures, fall into comas. They'd wake up screaming at night, have convulsions, lose consciousness. It was caused by acute brain swelling linked to that severe drop in blood sugar. And tragically, about 40% of these cases were fatal.
Oh my God, that's horrifying. Just from unripe fruit.
Yes, specifically unripe fruit, often consumed by malnourished children on an empty stomach, making them more susceptible. But there's a positive turn here. Once scientists definitively made the link.
They figured it out.
They figured it out. Public health campaigns were launched, educating parents about the danger, advising them to make sure kids had eaten something before having lychees and to avoid the unripe ones.
And it worked.
Dramatically. Since then, the number of cases of this illness in India has plummeted to fewer than 50 a year. It's a powerful example of how understanding food science can literally save lives.
Absolutely incredible. Okay, now for a spice cabinet staple, nutmeg.
Oh.
Adds lovely warmth to dishes, drinks. But too much is a bad idea.
A very bad idea. Nutmeg contains a psychoactive compound called myristicin. In the tiny amounts we use for flavoring, it's perfectly fine. But if you consume larger quantities, say 2 or 3 teaspoons of ground nutmeg, which isn't actually that much.
Teaspoons?
Yes, it can act as a poison. Myristicin is cytotoxic, remember that term from ricin. It damages cells, it can cause organ failure. The symptoms of nutmeg poisoning sound absolutely dreadful. Seizures, irregular heartbeats, severe nausea, dizziness, dry mouth, pain, and intense hallucinations, sometimes compared to peyote.
So people trying to get high off it,
Yeah.
not a good plan.
Definitely not. It's known historically people have tried, but it's described as a horrible experience because of the severe physical toxicity, vomiting, diarrhea that goes along with any psychoactive effects. And get this, there's currently no specific antidote for myristicin poisoning. Treatment is just supportive care, managing the symptoms. Stick to using it sparingly in the kitchen.
Duly noted. Okay, potatoes. The ultimate comfort food, right? We eat tons of them. But there's a catch. Something about green potatoes.
That's right. Your regular, normal-looking potato is fine. But if a potato has turned green or has significant green patches, that's a warning sign. The green indicates the presence of solanine.
Solanine. What's that?
It's a type of glycol alkaloid, a natural nerve toxin that the potato produces as a defense, often when it's exposed to light or gets damaged.
Yeah.
You also find higher concentrations of solanine in the sprouts, the eyes, and any stems that grow on old potatoes.
And eating solanine is bad.
In large amounts, yes. It can cause vomiting, diarrhea, headaches, and in very high doses, neurological problems like paralysis. And in extremely rare cases, it could even be fatal.
Okay, so the rule's pretty simple then.
Very simple. Store potatoes in a cool, dark place. Cut away any small green spots generously before cooking. If a potato is mostly green or has lots of sprouts or tastes bitter, which is another sign of solanine, just toss it. Don't eat green potatoes or the sprouts.
Easy enough. All right, here's one that might surprise people. Raw cashews. You see that on the bag, but are they really raw?
Huh. That's a great question, and usually, no, they aren't. It's a bit of a misnomer. Cashews do grow on trees, on the end of a fruit called a cashew apple, but the nut itself, inside its shell, contains a caustic oil with a chemical called urushiol.
Urushiol, wait, isn't that the stuff in poison ivy?
Exactly. It's the very same chemical that causes that itchy, blistering rash from poison ivy or poison oak. So, truly raw cashews, straight from the tree shell, are dangerous.
So how do they make them safe?
They have to be processed with heat, usually steaming or roasting before they're shelled. This process neutralizes the urushiol, so those raw cashews you buy have actually been heat-treated to make them safe. Eating a truly raw, unprocessed one could cause severe skin reactions and potentially dangerous allergic responses.
Fascinating. So raw just means not roasted for flavor, essentially.
Pretty much, yes. Not truly raw in the botanical sense.
Okay, we've covered a lot of warnings. How about we flip it? Is there anything people discard that they maybe should be eating? You mentioned kiwi skin earlier.
Ah, yes, kiwi skin. Most people peel it because it's fuzzy, right?
Yeah, the texture is a bit unusual.
But that skin is perfectly edible and actually really good for you. It's packed with nutrients. You get a ton more fiber, like it boosts the fruit's fiber by about 50%. Plus, you get extra folate, vitamin C, and especially vitamin E, which is concentrated in the skin.
50% more fiber, that's significant.
It really is. Great for digestion, plus all those antioxidants. So if the texture doesn't bother you too much, maybe give it a good wash and rub off some fuzz. Eating the skin is a great way to max out the nutrition.
Worth trying. Maybe slice it thin. But you mentioned a caveat.
Just one important note. Kiwi skin contains oxalates, similar to rhubarb leaves, but in much lower amounts. If you're prone to developing kidney stones, which can be oxalate-based, you might want to stick to peeling them or just eat them in moderation. It's about knowing your own health context.
Makes sense.
Wow.
What a tour through the kitchen, huh? From apple seeds to fugu, beans to cashews. even kiwi skin. It's amazing how much hidden complexity there is in everyday foods.
It really is. The recurring themes are clear, though. Know what part you're eating, prepare it correctly, and always remember that dose often determines the danger.
And it highlights how much control we actually have, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just through understanding and being careful in the kitchen.
Absolutely. It's not about being scared of food, but about being informed. Understanding these natural compounds and how we've learned to work with them safely is pretty empowering.
So what's the takeaway? Maybe the next time you're chopping vegetables or soaking beans or even just eating a piece of fruit, you'll look at it a little differently. You'll know some of the hidden stories, the crucial details, and that knowledge really does make for safer and maybe even more appreciative eating. Happy and healthy eating.